Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Q&A for OpCope, an algorithmic opera. I hope I didn't butcher that. Let me just get our panelists on the stage. Just give them all a second. I have a terrible memory, so I may be missing Keith. That's me. Just waiting on Keith.
He was there before.
Keith, you might have to turn cam and mic on at the bottom.
But while we wait, I thank everyone for sticking around and hope you enjoyed our film, Opus Cope, an algorithmic opera. This is the first official screening of any sort. And I believe, David, it's your first time watching it.
It is. It was. I loved it. It was. I didn't know what to expect. I really didn't, even though I was the subject at times. And it was that made it very, very on the edge kind of thing, and I like that.
Good. I'm glad. It's not the opposite reaction. But I would have, if you hated it, I would have taken it like a champ. So it's fine.
No. I didn't hate it at all. It took me a while to get the idea of the connection between each and every, view and understanding of a situation. Because, whoops! Oh, here's Keith. There he is. Can we hear you?
Right.
You just figured out how to unmute.
Down at the bottom. It's green. Cam on. You got that?
You're good.
It wasn't.
You're good,
Mike.
Keith. We can hear you. So,
it's good.
Everybody, welcome to Filmocracy Fest and to our Q&A session with Opus Cope. We're very happy to have the filmmaker and the inspiration and some people from the crew joining us today to share their insights on making the film and their plans going forward. And definitely thank you guys for giving us the opportunity to present your terrific film with our audiences and for joining us today. So why don't we just jump right in? I know we already started.
Everybody froze.
Wait.
No.
Paul?
Paul froze.
I think we lost Paul for a little bit.
Am I back?
He moved slightly.
Oh, he's back.
You're back. Yep.
Okay. So the question was, when did you get the inspiration for making this movie?
Oh, it was around 2016. And I was at the time waiting on a director's lab to either fall through or happen. And I don't like waiting for things. And I know in this town of LA, nothing's guaranteed. So I happened to be in the car and listening to a Radiolab episode titled "Musical DNA," and in it they played a recombined version of the Moonlight Sonata, which happened to be produced by David's Emmy algorithm, and it really, took me by surprise, and it made me want to find out more about the composer behind it. And in the beginning, I thought it would just be kind of a short documentary that I could work on while pursuing this director's lab. But of course, that fell through, and so I just I ended up pursuing this pretty much full time, and I'm glad I did. I'm glad the director's lab, which was supposed to be a short film, I'm glad it fell through, because I think I wouldn't have been creatively fulfilled as I was with this one.
Awesome. Well, obviously, you're the filmmaker, and most people are familiar with you, but I think it would be good for the other people on the panel to introduce themselves. Obviously, David, you are the inspiration, so maybe we'll start with you, and then we'll do Keith and Alex. If you could give us a little intro on you guys.
Well, what exactly do you want me to cover here?
Just yourself. Who are you? Why should people care? Why are you so amazing? These types of things.
Well, as Keith mentioned, I love new things. I love things that jar people to a bit, and I don't really know what to say. I'm still sort of regurgitating, going through the movie. That the film itself is very professional and quite lovely at times. I mean, when you showed the pictures of that beach scene, I mean, I didn't know those were going to be in there, and they were really quite impressive.
Oh, thanks, Dave.
Yeah, it worked. It worked.
I'm glad I shocked you with the result. Yeah.
You didn't actually shock me in the sense of I don't know. I was just on the verge of falling off the sofa here, trying to figure out what was going to happen next, which was great. I mean, that was lovely.
But I mean, David and I get along well because he's not one for. I mean, David, if you know him, is very self-effacing and doesn't like to talk about himself too much, even when you're at my Q&A. So all you guys have to know is that he is the seminal algorithmic composer in his field, and as you saw in the film, he has quite an expansive body of work that intersects it goes through music and science and art, not just music itself.
Right.
How about you, Keith? Can you give a little intro as to your part in the film?
Were you addressing me? I've got a lot of latency here. It's hard to keep track of things.
Yes.
So, Paul, are you asking Keith?
Yeah. Yep.
Well, I guess as you can see in the film itself, I guess I would be David Cope's amanuensis if I actually knew what that word meant. So, tried to be a close friend and companion and keep track of his work, which is not easy to do because keeping up with David is
Keith, we're losing you there.
But I hope I was able to contribute a little bit to the film in terms of giving some context and background and some personal anecdotes around the parts of David's biography that I'm familiar with. And I'm quite sure that there are enormous of David's biography
I don't think
that
so.
I'm not the least bit familiar with.
But
as I said in the film, it's been a great, both a pleasure and a privilege to have been able to share some, times and experiences with him, and particularly to hope and aspire to having a little bit of his creativity rub off.
And how about you, Alex?
Yeah, hi, I'm Alex Tao, executive producer, but honestly, just really. Oh. You okay there, Keith? Known Jay for a long time. We've actually worked on a couple other projects together. So when he came to me with this project, I was pretty much right away on board. I do enjoy pretty much anything that involves technology, AI, algorithms, and I've really just enjoyed sort of being a part of this, and again honored to work with the likes of David and Keith.
Yeah, I want to say real quick, without Alex here, this film would not have been possible. So thank you so much to you, man. And of course, everyone else involved, including the crew. I really appreciate everyone's involvement, and thanks to Filmocracy for hosting this screening as well.
Of course, we're delighted. It was an amazing film to include in our lineup. And, maybe you can talk a little bit about how you and David first got started. You're the filmmaker and he's kind of the subject matter. So what was that first contact like?
Initial contact was you hit it off right away, I want to say. He was very open and generous with my inquiries. I first reached out through email, and I talked about the Radiolab episode and wanted to learn more. And at the time, I only knew about Emmy, and that was one of his algorithms that was from his earlier algorithms. He's since moved on to many more, but the email turned into phone calls. And then eventually, I ran the idea of by David if I could film a short documentary, and that led to the first initial interview, first contact, and it went well. Went with my friends Tony Bowie and Dean Ashita, who were the camera operator and the sound recordist, respectively, at the time, and we recorded a very nice, long, comprehensive interview that I think I could have written a book about just that alone. But I immediately realized that I couldn't really have a film on its own with just an interview. As much as I like David sitting in the couch or on the chair and talking to us, it would have been a challenge to turn that into a stimulating documentary or a film. So that's when I started to really dig deeper into his work, and to try to extract a sense of style for the film, drawing on his own body of work. And essentially what ended up happening was I wanted to imitate David. David's someone who imitates in some of his work. Emmy imitates human composers, but I wanted to imitate David's kind of algorithmic, recombinant creative process through the film. So that's a long answer, but I hope it answers your question. Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to hear David's counter to that story. What did you think of Jay when he first came to you with the project? And did you immediately feel like, oh, this is something I'm interested in, or did it take some wooing from him?
Well, frankly, I didn't. I mean, I didn't know what this was going to turn into, but I'm in favor of it any way you looked at it. And then I realized how he has a musical background. He can play music on the piano and other instruments. And anyway, I got to know and like him immensely. And I don't know what else to say except, it's been a long, interesting ride. And I felt very confident, I guess is the word, about him having control over his medium, and I like that, and so forth. You should ask Keith though, because I think he spent more time with Keith than he did with me, which is great. I mean, don't think that I don't mean that positively, because I do. I'm delighted because Keith is extremely articulate and knows a whole lot more words than I do, and that was it was great to hear your voice. I don't we're both locked in our houses with our wives to some degree, and it was great to see him talk. I mean, I just like to listen to him talk. And
so do I. I think a lot of people do.
Yeah.
I mean, you should go next, Paul, if that's what you want. But I just want to quickly say Keith is highly articulate, and he's had a documentary himself. He had very little direction was required from me, and he seemed to, as you can tell by the movie, he carried a lot of the narration naturally.
Right. Keith,
Keith, do you want to add to it?
hello.
I think he's on a little bit of a delay.
Sorry, I'm losing all the sound here.
Yep, we're asking
No,
you.
not.
Have you got your green things on still?
Yeah. His sound is working.
Yeah, everything. Alex is muted, but aside from that, can you hear me or not?
Yeah, we can hear you, Keith.
Wave if you can hear me. Okay. Here we go. Okay. Yeah, well,
Just like, what was your first impression of Jay and how the
Was there
project
a
first
question?
came together? What did you think? Were you optimistic? Were you pessimistic?
okay. Yeah, I'm sorry about my end or everybody else's, but I think I have a poor internet connection. I approach all endeavors like this with a great deal of skepticism because I've been involved in some documentaries that were of a more commercial nature, and I've had many experiences because completely different arena that I'm involved in, which is archaeology, where the goal of the filmmakers, unfortunately, is sensationalism, and they're not really interested in the I don't know, the serious content that they're attempting to do in that arena, and their only intent is to sensationalize it. So I think when Jay first approached through David or with David, however you want to phrase that, impulse was to sort of check Jay out and make sure that he was a genuine professional who was seriously interested in the topic, and on top of David's reputation, way, shape, or form that he pleased, which is an unfortunate trait of other documents that I've come across. And I'm delighted to say that Jay completely failed to live up to my expectations of exploitation and has made a very sincere and serious film, which I was delighted to see for the first time today. And congratulations, Jay and David and everybody else and the rest of the crew. And I can only say that it's a shame that the person that there should have been a lot more of in the film, I think, from having she's not at the Filmocracy table here with us. So I hope that somewhat answers your question. If not,
she's got to be somewhere. She's got to be somewhere there.
More questions.
Well, she saw the film and she was impressed, but is now on her way to bed. I guess she's not well. So
it is getting late for me as well. Yeah.
We got to keep moving on without her. So I'll direct this next question at Alex. You know, you're the producer.
I thought she was terrific in the moment. Articulate person in the documentary, myself and David and everybody else included.
Yeah, we're talking about you.
Terrific.
Hi, Mary Jane.
Say hi.
She woke up.
Hi.
So what I'd really like to touch on next, and maybe Alex, you can answer this, is, you know, this is a very sophisticated, complex subject, And so I wonder what was the goal behind making this film? Like, did you like hope that you would make something very commercial that a lot of people would see, or you just wanted it to kind of find its way through like different festivals to the right audience? Like, what is your big dream for when you were planning to produce?
For this project in particular, I honestly did not want to be in the driver's seat for any of those types of decisions. Jay being a longtime friend, um, and I guess in general, with most projects that I do get involved in, I'm very much of the camp of let the project speak for itself, let it evolve on its own, and I think at the very least, I hope I was able to provide Jay kind of like sort of being like a mirror and kind of letting him bounce ideas off of me, and just it was more about me asking him questions so that I could understand what his vision was and what the personalities were, and how the end product would end up shaping up to be.
Awesome. Yeah, and so Jay, what would you say was the biggest, like obviously you have, a great team here supporting you and providing you with the content that you need, but what was the biggest challenge you had while making the film?
That's an easy one. Biggest challenge was filming in David's asylum, the wind chime room. That was a big pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you can tell from the images, but every which way you go, you would run into a wind chime. And I mean, those were the most challenging shots I've ever had to do in my life, to be honest. So I can say that was the most challenging part of the project, was figuring out how to film inside that room. Yeah.
And what would you say was your goal for the film? Like, did you want to teach people about David's work, or do you just want people to, find interesting things, or you just like music and that's what motivated you?
I think, diving deeper into David's work, it was obvious that at the root of it all was the underlying theme was creativity, and often artificial creativity gets a bad rap. It was just on snap judgment without people really giving it a chance. And so I wanted to create an experience, not just a film, a traditional, conventional, interview-driven doc, but really make an experience so people can maybe decide for themselves whether or not, machine AI is to be feared in the context of creativity. And I think you can see for yourself that there are limits to that technology as of now. And at the same time, we aren't perhaps as creative or original as we think we are. And I try to convey that through, again, this recombinant imagery repeated throughout the film, and try to and be self-referential and blend David's machine output again, and with my own impressions of his work. And I challenge people if they could recall which pieces of music, for example, were actually machine composed or human composed. And so I just wanted it to be an experience for people, start thinking about creativity without really forcing it, without, pushing it down your throat kind of thing. I wanted it to be tasteful and not so predictable. And I'm glad, David, you found that you were kind of, you didn't know what to expect. I'm glad to hear you felt that. So that's mission. That was my goal, to really I don't know, create something interesting and creatively satisfying that for as a filmmaker, I care about how a film is made. So this is a very important stepping stone for me. It's a film about creativity and inherently style. So for me, it's the perfect first film to take a diving board off of. So again, I'm super grateful and happy that all of you who are here are part of this project.
I think we can all agree that it was a very, unconventional documentary sort of structure, and that's a risk that you take sometimes, especially with how formulaic a lot of documentaries have become today. Following the same sort of shots and structure that is typical for a mainstream audience. So I'm interested, David. It's great that you are happy with the final product, and now that it exists, like, who would you like most to see this film, and who do you think would benefit the most to learn from this story?
In other words, who
should watch this movie? Who should watch this movie?
Who should watch this movie? Well, I could name names, but I don't mean much to you. So I think everybody should watch it. How about that?
That's a great answer. I always felt that way. Marketing person's favorite answer.
Keith, you got any suggestion for who should see this?
Well, of my life, I think my absolute favorite moment in the whole film is when Bernie Greenberg says, "I guess David wins," and so I would like to nominate Bernie Greenberg as the person who should watch this film.
Is he going to get a chance to see it?
Unfortunately, he wasn't able to make it since he's in Boston, and he couldn't make it. But there will be more of these screenings to come, I'm sure. So
we are oddly specific in who we want to watch this movie. I kind of meant more like groups of people, whether they're like music students or young people who don't understand good music or things like that. But generally, calling out people individually is much more fun.
Sorry, Paul. We're bad at this Q&A.
So Keith, why don't I hit you with the next question? So what are some of your best memories you have in your history with algorithmic music? This is from the Q&A.
Keith?
Keith, yeah.
Sorry, I didn't hear the question.
The question is, what are some of the best memories you have in your history with algorithmic music?
Keith?
Certainly. And creative process, privy, sheer serendipity to be around David at the moment of the inception of this project. And connectivity or something. I'm sorry. I don't know. Maybe Bernadette is watching Netflix on the same.
Yeah, the delay seems to be pretty strong coming from Keith. So I'm just going to try to move on. Apologies to you, Keith.
Yeah, sorry, Keith. You are living under a magnet or something. So, all right, moving on.
So another question from the audience. Alex, we'll pitch this to you. What are some plans for films in the future? Did working with Jay on this make you want to work more with Jay, or work more in music documentaries, or expand into other categories? What's in store for you?
I guess in terms of filmmaking, I don't really have any strong goals or kind of ambitions as far as that goes. My main kind of day to day is working in digital advertising, and I kind of do these creative things on the side. So I'll honestly hear out any project, and if it's something that I think that I believe in, or I think has a very interesting concept. I'm pretty much very open to all sorts of different projects. Lately, it's been mostly documentary focused. But yeah, aside from that, it's just kind of whatever comes my way, I guess. Very kind of come what may.
Awesome. Yeah, good to see what's out there before you commit, right? Jay, I have a question for you. So, what are your next plans? Obviously, making one feature documentary takes a lot out of you. Like, are you done for a little while, or is there already another plan in your mind?
I don't mind being a bit patient right now, especially with what's going on in the world, and really hone in on my next project. I'm not. It's kind of conceptually, this one's kind of hard to top, to be honest, and I think for the next one it'll be different tonally. But I do, I like to approach things like music, and so the next one, this one's very much, it's very heavy, and it's and intentionally so. But I like to do something a bit lighter and more spontaneous for the next one. And Keith, he's dedicated a lot of his work to archaeology in Peru. Specifically the Chachapoya, I believe, if I'm not pronouncing it correctly, but I think that translates to warriors of the clouds. But he and I, while we were wrapping this project up, I was like, hey, I've seen many films, many filmmakers before have gone that path of filming in Peru, and maybe following in the footsteps of, the greats like Herzog, for example. Maybe we can do our own take, a different perspective of that, of culture and of people. But of course, as got slammed with everything from the heavens. So that project is kind of temporarily put on hold, and I'm sure Keith and David would love to go outside, but I think they've been inside longer than any of us here.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, we certainly hope that you do make something in the near future, so we can welcome you again to Filmocracy Fest. But we are nearing the end of our time, so I would like to give everybody an opportunity to just let the audience know, like, how can they follow you? How can they keep in touch or keep track? Okay, there's one more question that Phil says we need to answer. So he says, what's next for Opus Cope? Do you have plans for a sequel, Opus Cope 2?
Opus Cope 2. That would involve the real performances of the Rite of Spring, of Emily Howell's Rite of Spring. That would be Opus Cope 2, the whole performance. and all the other projects that David continues to passionately work on. He's collaborating with a musician, halfway across the world, I believe, working on a piece together, a violin concerto. I mean, all these things, stay tuned. But one final thing I did want to address from Phil was the title, and I wanted to abbreviate Opus because a lot of my inspiration is taken from the tradition of classical music, and including the album covers and whatnot, and sheet music. So I wanted to be kind of a tribute to that format and play with that, and hence why I decided to spell it out that way. But yeah, I want to just say thanks for, thank you everybody for staying up this late and still being here on a Friday night. Yeah, please follow us and stay tuned for more news. And thank you, Paul and Filmocracy, John, Aaron, and the hardworking team behind the scenes, because it's a lot of work. Thank you, guys.
Well, again, thank you for joining us and taking the time to share more about your work. We wish you all the best and hope to see you again over the course of the fest. There's still a couple days left. And to our audience, thanks for joining us for the Q&A. If you haven't seen Opus Cope, definitely check it out on demand and be sure to vote. There is an audience award. And we'll see you again soon. Thanks again to everyone from the crew of Opus Cope.